Hello guys, you're welcome to another exciting episode of Sabia Greek. Today we are in Ebonyi State. We're actually in Abakaliki, the capital of Ebonyi State. We'll be learning so much about seed selection, what to do to your seed, how to know if the seeds you've selected will germinate. Yeah, we are the Ebonyi State Seed Laboratory, powered by Ebonyi State Value Chain Development Program, IFAD assisted. We'll be talking with Izuchukwu Njoku, the chief lab technician, and he'll be showing us the equipment they use for this process, why this is important, and we also implore that you sit back and learn from this. You're still on Sabia Greek, and I remain your host, Uke Praise. You're welcome.
You're welcome to Ebonyi State Seed Laboratory, built by Ebonyi State Value Chain Development Project, IFAD assisted. In this laboratory, we do 3 major tests, including purity test, moisture test, and germination test. All these are aimed at ensuring that quality seeds that are viable are distributed to the farmers of Ebonyi State and to other states which may wish to make use of this seed laboratory. However, the operations of the seed laboratory starts from sampling, and that sampling is done in the store. This sampling is done with the aid of the probes, or what we call the grain collectors. We collect samples depending on the type of grain. For example, for rice seeds, we collect about 700 grams for what we call the submitted sample. From that submitted sample, when it comes into the laboratory, we'll mix it with the aid of the mixer and divider. This is the mixer and divider. What we do is that as you pour the seeds inside the mixer and divider, it mixes and divides into 2. It also keeps on mixing. And after about 3 to 4 different times, you are going to have a homogeneous mixture from which you can pick your working sample. The essence of this is to ensure that the qualities in the entire seed is duly represented in the little grams that you're going to pick from it. This is the 3rd time. After about 3, 4 times, you're expected to have a homogeneous mixture. And from this, for rice seeds, you're going to pick your working sample. And that working sample for rice seeds is 70 grams. That will take us to the weighing balance. All we do is you on the weighing balance, allow it to stabilize, you tar it, and you measure the amount of grams that you need. For example, this is my rice seed. I will weigh 70 grams. either in the refrigerator for future purposes. These remaining seeds can be used for replication in case from our working sample, the 70 grams for rice, remember I said it's different in grams depending on the grain you're working on. You can now take it for your purity test. In the laboratory, we have two equipment that we majorly use for our purity test. One is the purity board. The purity board has some lens attachment and light that helps you to separate your seeds into the different components. And we also have the microscope. We use the microscope if you're not able to observe what you need on the purity board. Here, you make sure your sample is not adulterated with any other seed, since you have already weighed your sample. What we do here is we pour our seeds on the purity board, either with your hands gloved or with the aid of this kit. You can separate the rice seeds into different components. There are different things different components. You can separate this. You can separate it into pure seeds. You can separate it into dead seeds, the broken seeds, to chaffs, and other components. But majorly, we are interested in the pure seeds. You can also have other seeds, like when you have other varieties. There are some other varieties that you can differentiate from this. For example, the red rice, which is, it's one of the varieties we don't want to see in our seeds. So you can help separate it here, and what you do is, when you separate, you calculate it by weight and know the percentage of each. And that tells you whether the rice is actually pure or not. So you are also expected to put on your nose mask in case the rice is dusty enough. After conducting your purity test and separating it into different components, you calculate it on percentage basis. That will enable you to project, if with this little quantity of rice I have here, there is this amount of other seeds or chaffs, then there is this percentage of that other seeds in the one in the store. So from the rice we mixed before, or from the seeds we mixed before, we can also collect samples and conduct our moisture test. The moisture test we do with the aid of the electric oven. There are actually other rapid testers, but for this laboratory, we use the electric oven. Now, what we do is we measure 5 grams of seeds. Replicates. Measure one sample, 5 grams in each of these cans. Then you on the oven. On your oven and allow it to calibrate. When you on it, we conduct our moisture test at a temperature range of 130 degrees C. After weighing your samples, you put it into the oven. That's after calibration. Then put it into the oven and allow it to dry for about 3-4 hours to maintain a constant weight. Remember, before we started, we knew the weight of our can and we know the weight of the seeds that are inside. Your calibration is done with the aid of the thermometer attached to the oven. That helps you to know when the oven has gotten to the temperature you want. After 3-4 hours, you remove your sample. Remember, you don't remove your samples with this kind of gloves. You can help yourself with a woolen glove or others that will help you not to get hot. And you put it into the desiccator. Inside the desiccator, your hot sample cans cools down without attracting extra moisture from the outside. And when you know that your sample and the can is a little bit cool, that you can handle it, you can now weigh to get your W3. Now, after getting that, subtract the weight of the can from, as in the final weight from the initial weight so that you know the weight lost. Then use it as a percentage of the weight of the sample before drying. That will give you the percentage moisture. And for each replicate, you do that. And later on, you find the average. That will give you the average moisture content of the seed. You're done with your purity test. And from the pure seeds, you select 400 seeds. Remember, in your selection, you should not be biased. There are criteria that makes a seed qualify to be a pure seed. So, in your selection from the pure seed, you should not be biased, maybe stating that this particular seed will germinate or the other will not germinate. You select pure seeds and allow the germination test to tell you the result. You can actually do your germination test on inside the seed germinator, or you can do it with a room temperature on the seed rack. However, the benefit with the seed germinator is that it gives you the temperature you want. It gives you light depending on the number of hours you want light to exist. Then it also gives you air depending on what you set it to be. So what we do with the germinator is you on it. After owning the germinator, you are the one to set your germinator to the conditions you want to be available inside the germinator. The germinator is a screen touch mechanism. When it's ready, it tells you you can touch the screen to continue. When I touch my screen, I can actually set up what I want. Set the time, make sure it's there. I can set whether I want light, the number of hours I want light, and whether I want air, and the rest of it. Just make sure you set it to the parameters you want. When you are done, you can run. But before that, you are expected to have fixed your samples inside the seed germinator. For the germination test, we expect that the germination test lasts for 14 good days. That will enable you to determine the dead seeds, determine the fresh seeds, and to determine the good seedlings that will be very, very much viable in the field. However, with the paper towel, it will last only for 7 days. So you're expected to stop the germination test after 7 days if you're using the paper towel. Now, one problem with this is that it needs constant power supply. So in the absence of constant power supply, we can actually do our germination on the rack while we follow normal germination processes. But this time, you cannot actually determine the temperature and the other parameters that you're conducting the germination. Anyway, in the seed laboratory, we have our air conditioner that helps us control excessive heat and makes the environment very cool. One other advantage of the germinator is that you may not need to water constantly. But if you are germinating outside, you may need to water in 2-3 days. So you can see some germination trays already filled with sand on the rack. But your sand must be sterilized. The essence of the sterilization is to ensure that there are no other seeds that will grow as weeds while you're doing your germination. And some pests or some insects that may be detrimental to the growth of the seeds while growing will also be taken care of by the soil sterilization. Take a look at this rack. You can see some sand, some germination trays already filled with sand.